Chairman, when this matter broke in October, I set out my concerns in a letter to the case officer, and I think it might be appropriate if I simply reiterated what I said there, because I don't think that the situation has changed one iota. In the letter, which you've got a copy of, on 22nd of October, I said that I would look at this application afresh, which I thought would be adequate. Although, of course, my opposition to the loss of this feature has long been on record. I make no secret of the fact that for the last 10 or so years, I have been seeking to have all the water features within the Hinckley area accepted as public spaces, amenity areas, because we really do need water. The environment needs water in the centre of England, because we have no rivers or anything like that. So water features are an essential asset. And then I listed the four main objections. In other words, the loss of the valuable environmental feature. This is one of the largest lakes actually in Hinckley. The impact of lorry movements on Ashby Road, and of course the two houses either side of the entrance, but it would impact on the whole of Ashby Road. The impact of noise, dust, etc. on a residential area, and lastly the threat of flooding. In that letter, I also drew attention to the inaccuracy of the Highways Department's report of the 3rd of October, which said that the principle of residential development on this site has previously been accepted. This is misleading at best, because it was not on the whole site. It was for the rim to the south of the site. It was not agreed by the planning committee at Hinckley. It was agreed on appeal. The planning inspector, in fact, said that he recognised the value of the water feature, and said that the condition of allowing the houses to the south would be that the water should be filled up in order to stabilise the site. I also queried the Highways Department's assertion that 90,000 square metres or cubic metres rather, of material would be needed to fill the pit, equating to 2,000 lorry loads. That was then raised in a later report to 6,000 to 7,500 lorry loads, but I have seen nowhere in any of these reports that an independent assessment has been made either of the size of the pit or the lorries or the amount of material. Someone somewhere should have done a calculation, but we seem to be taking the word of the applicant. Just coming to the report itself, I realised I've only got a short time to make my case, and therefore I shall just pick out, if I may, one or two points that occurred to me. The first being the Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council's environmental health observations on page 121, where I think that they bolster the arguments I was saying about the impact of noise, dust, etc. And that is all there on paragraph 27. They're urging for more information before a decision is made. I don't think that further information has been sought or given. There's concern there about air quality. You can just imagine, is it going to take a year, 2 years, 5 years of rubble being tipped into there? What impact will the dust have on those properties all the way around there, and on Leicester, and on the cemetery, and on the new cemetery to the right of this? I don't think it's going to be a very pleasant immediate environment, even if all the dust is clean and clear, which of course it won't be. It'll be blowing around all over the place, unless this is going to be the cleanest tip you've ever come across. On the bottom of page 121, Environment Agency, there's a reference there to the report of the Environment Agency, which quite rightly lifts the arguments that have been put down there, little 1 to little 4, and then goes on to make other observations. But what this report fails to do is to pick out what the Environment Agency said after these notes, after their observations, and I think it's something that you should at least be aware of, and it's on page 3 of the Environment Agency report, which no doubt as you've all had, and it says that this was sent to Steve Marriott on the 6th of November from the Environment Agency. Note, just listen to this. The engineering methodology submitted with the application does not state how it will deal with the flows coming into the site from the Sunnyside Brook watercourse. Flows, including flood flows from this watercourse, will constantly top up the dewatering from the pit. Therefore, a detailed scheme to manage flows from the Sunnyside Brook during the 1-year duration of the engineering works needs to be provided as part of a more detailed construction working method statement for the creation of a reinstated watercourse. Due to the above, a dewatering period of 5 weeks is unlikely to work under the circumstances. So I think that is a direct warning from the Environment Agency that all is not well with this application, and there are further references in this 8-page report, which has, I don't think that the Environment Agency would have gone to this length to go through this if they didn't have serious concerns, and so that's their observation. Then going on through the report, Chairman, there is a reference to, well, the 5-year land supply that has been, hopefully at least been challenged by the Borough Council, because there is a belief there that there is a 5-year housing supply. But further on, if you look at the bottom of page 128, there is a reference there to the ecology. I know the ecology is not considered to be very important, but nevertheless, it's more or less dismissed there. And of course, it's largely been dismissed because somebody has been onto this private land and cleared not only the vegetation, but as also somebody has cleared the wildlife as well. It can't be a member of the public because the public are not allowed onto the site. But what the ecologist actually said, we have and this was on the 14th of October last year, we have previously objected in principle to this development on the grounds that the draining and infilling of the big pit will facilitate residential development and would cause the loss of an area of open water of local significance. And she's attached her previous comments, and she sums up, I therefore recommend refusal of the application on the grounds of a loss of habitat of local importance, which would be contrary to paragraph 118 of the NPPF. No ecology evidence has been submitted in support of the application with regard to protected species, badger, water vole, white-clawed crayfish, great rooster newts, or habitats. This is inadequate and must be done prior to determination, and is in itself a reason for refusal of the application. Notwithstanding this, I still would maintain my objection to the principle of the development. Therefore, Chairman, for all these reasons, I urge you to look at the main thrust of this, and that is the loss of a habitat and the potential asset, the impact of the lorry movements on Ashby Road and through onto the site, the impact of noise and dust, and the threat of flooding, which has been very much outlined in the Environment Agency report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bill. Does any member of the board have any point of clarification for what Mr. Bill has said? Sean, you?
Thank you, Chairman. David, we were told in the briefing about the history with Asda and the fact that that was built on a site that had a similar feature. Can you tell us how that compares and how they achieved the draining and the infilling of that piece of land?
Well, in fact, there used to be 3 pits in this area. The big pit to the south, then the pit before my time under Asda, and another smaller pit to the north. And so I suppose what's happened is that the water has now accumulates in the big pit and in the little pit to the north, and I don't think there is a problem with Asda. Asda floods from time to time, of course, but the underlying surface of Hinckley is very strange. There's clay on the top, but quicksand underneath, and all kinds of extraordinary things happen. Water tends to spring up unexpectedly, and you can never be absolutely certain about what's going on under the town at all. And I think the water that you see there, which has accumulated really in the last, well, you can't see it there, but the water in the lake is now about 2/3 full, and that's accumulated in the last month or so from somewhere. And I think it's springs and brooks and all sorts of things going on, which nobody really knows fully the full picture.
Yeah, just to be clear then, David, are you saying that the draining and infilling of the Asda site has had an impact on the big pit?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. You'd have to read the Environmental Agency's report, which expresses concerns about the whole situation to be absolutely certain. I think it's beyond lay members to understand precisely what is meant by some of the terms, but it certainly left the impression that the situation will be unsatisfactory if it's fulfilled in.